To nationalists, north and south, it's a beleaguered outpost, existing on the very edge of the United Kingdom, but with aspirations of a united Ireland. To Unionists and the government, it's ground in the terrorist war which must not be lost, politically or militarily. The cost of that defence has run into millions of pounds and many lives. This village is where the IRA thinks it can and must take on the police and army. They, the terrorists, would have regarded the downing of a helicopter with a relatively crude homemade mortar just a few weeks ago as a propaganda coup. Not long after, another army came to town, an army of builders and engineers whose job is to refurbish the Crossmaglen police and military barracks. In the interests of security, 6 new checkpoints were put in place almost overnight. They may protect, but they've failed to camouflage a row over excessive security which has made its way from here to London, Dublin, and the United States. Saturday, April the 16th, and it's Cup Final Day in Crossmaglen. Gaelic football clubs from Derry and Tyrone are doing battle in the shadow of the joint police and army base, which over the years has requisitioned ground from the football club. Security, politics, and sport. Uncomfortable bedfellows.
Well, we were just issued with a requisition order just taking over our property, or some of our property, and that is all the indication that we have got what is going on. That we have made representation both to the Irish government and the Northern Ireland office, and as of yet nobody has said what has been done. Now, our area over here, our spectator area over the far side here, has been requisitioned, and to us that is just a blatant attempt at harassment, because to us it serves no purpose to anybody unless that they are going to extend outside the base, and we are told that that is not the case. Well, we are not making any political point. All we are simply doing is that we want our premises back. And our ground here the base is actually built on our ground, and has been for this last 23 or 4 years. And all basically we want is our ground back. We would have been expecting here today probably in the region of, I'd say, at least 2,000 people, and as you see, that is not the case now. And I would put that down solely to the checkpoints that are on the road at the minute, which would have deterred people from coming into the town.
Game over, and the spectators are asked to become players in the campaign aimed at removing the security checkpoints which now ring the village. They take part, along with local residents and some seasoned campaigners.
If one looks at the financial, military expenditure, the personnel expenditure, and the risk to which military and civilians are exposed by placing essentially this military output in a strongly nationalist community, I think it stands to reason that that's the core objection. The existence of the military base has always been the source of difficulty here. Now that it's being refurbished, the complete, essentially military siege of this town, which is required in order to do it, merely reinforces the question that it shouldn't be here. What is it doing here? If the British government is serious about a peace process and serious about saying that it has no interest in Northern Ireland and would leave Northern Ireland if the majority of its people asked them to do so, the majority of the people of Crossmaglen are asking them to leave Crossmaglen. They show no willingness to do so. If they are creating a peace process, why is that peace process involved in this town? A major increase in the number of soldiers and weaponry. And given that nobody wants them, the amount of at least irritation, at most hostility, anger, frustration that is going to be built up here over 3 months, leading to hostility and danger on both sides.
Midday Monday and the centre of Crossmaglen. The Cartwheel Bar prepares for what should be the lunchtime rush. But its proprietor believes it's a rush which will be some time in returning.
Well, as you see, there's nobody has come through the door yet for lunches, and we usually have a good passing trade. A lot of southerners come in filtering through the town, and all that has ceased from the barricades on top.
Why do you think people are staying away?
Well, being a southerner myself, the very fact that you see a soldier with a gun is very intimidating when you're not used to it. And especially when you see such a large checkpoint. There are various reasons, you'd be afraid, one, by seeing the soldiers. Secondly, if you could be caught in a position where an incident could happen, So that's, I would say, keeps whatever southerners come to the town out of it. People are just afraid of getting caught up in a situation that they're not used to.
Beer deliveries now come through the front of the cartwheel. The rear delivery lane has been taken over in the rebuilding work.
I got a man walked in Monday morning and gave me a requisition order and told me that I had to find an alternative route to take in the kegs. And he wasn't too bothered about it.
Are you going to receive any financial compensation for the inconvenience?
Seemingly, I was given a number in the front of it to contact, and they said that you contact them and get in touch. But seemingly all they pay you is a rent, or part of, for whatever length of time, a yearly rent, and whatever length of time they have it, they divide it accordingly. The rent doesn't pay for your back for lifting them kegs and the whole lot. And it's a bit unfair on the delivery man to ask them to hold them all the way around, You only get paid for delivering, not stocking up your premises. As you can see, there's the entrance totally blocked off there.
Across the square, on one of the half-dozen roads leading out of Crossmaglen, James Cairns and his daughter play in the garden of their home. Until the security operation began less than a fortnight ago, there was no military checkpoint at the end of the drive. Amateur video shows how troops set about work while children played.
Yeah.
In the initial stages of the checkpoints being set up, there was increased activity with cranes and lorries, convoys coming in, forklifts, more helicopter flights in. So we had problems getting to sleep at night. And then the little girl, Sarah, she's 4. She won't come outside the house to play now on her own. Somebody has to be with her all the time. So if there's nobody here to take her out, or if somebody wants to do something inside, then she doesn't go out to play.
General practitioner with a passion for local politics, Dr. Mary Allen sets off on the house calls, which, because of the newly installed checkpoints, will also take her round the houses.
Well, I do drive around, I suppose, a lot more than most people, doing calls and going to and from work. This building work has just changed the whole feel of the village incredibly over the last week. People feel imprisoned, they feel isolated, they feel under siege. That's the word that's being used all the time now.
We're actually coming through a checkpoint now. Is this typical of the checkpoints on all the roads into the village?
This is typical of it, yes, except you've had an easy passage through. At a lot of times in the day, peak times, you could be waiting maybe 10-15 minutes at this checkpoint. This isn't normal to get through so easily. This is the Newry Road leading out of Crossmaglen. I have a call just up here in the nursing home. People here feel very aggrieved at the increased militarisation of the village, and they feel that this is not to repair the barracks. They feel the logistics of all this process has been worked out for months, and that it's John Major's revenge on what he perceives as and what is a nationalist community. They don't feel that if the barracks needed repair, that there would be so much work and so much personnel involved in this process.
According to the police, there have been 15 attacks on the Crossmaglen base in the past 3 years. The terrorists have used mortars, heavy gunfire, and incendiaries. Leaflets handed out to Crossmaglen residents apologise for the inconvenience caused during the building work, but lay the blame for that squarely at the door of the IRA. Few details are available as to exactly what's being done inside the base, but a government source has given Counterpoint a broad outline of its nature. The 6 new checkpoints have been strategically placed so that the IRA's Mark 15 mortars are out of range of the base. This, said the spokesman, is primarily designed to protect the civilian workforce, which has been brought in to carry out the refurbishment. And the work itself? The spokesman said that accommodation inside the camp is being made mortar-proof, and improvements will be made to observation towers. On the day the operation began, a senior police officer had this to say.
Basically, the purpose of this is to refurbish and to carry out some major construction works at the police station and the sangars attached to it. This work will go on for several weeks, and there will be an increase in the security presence in the village at the time. Now, over the past 3 years, there have been 15 sustained attacks on this base from terrorists by varying degrees. Those were all destined for one thing and one thing only, that was to cause death and destruction. They were carried out without regard for the safety of the people living in the village. So we have got to provide a degree of protection whilst this work is going on.
Just miles from Crossmaglen, the village of Bestbrook. It too is permanently sealed off with police and military checkpoints, put in place to protect police and soldiers billeted in the former Bestbrook Mill. The helicopter pad there is said to be one of the busiest in Europe. A local SDLP councillor this week told the Security Minister, Sir John Wheeler, in writing, that such overt security is affecting business and alienating some of the community.
It would be the scale of the activity. It would be the fact that our daily life is interrupted, as I say, our primary school, our visits to church here. Now this is true in the sense we have acknowledged for the members of the unionist community as well. We would take, in principle, would take exception to, in particular, the checkpoint on this road. We feel that while we do acknowledge that, as I repeat, these men and women have to have some sort of security, look after themselves, but we say there must be a better way.
His unionist colleague on Newry and Mourne Council believes the majority of villagers in Bestbrook understand the police and army presence.
Well, obviously it's, it does cause inconvenience, and the traders have consistently lost money as a result of it. It's very hard to attract new people into the area. But for all of that, most people feel a lot safer by having the barriers within Bestbrook, and also they are prepared to accept it as a drawback in the security situation that has to be waged, particularly in South Armagh.
How can the people here be so tolerant, though, when their village is practically a garrison town, it's practically sealed off?
Well, the local people, I think, realise that this is the major base, the only base that the Army and the RUC can operate easily from in terms of the South Armagh operation. And so the greater good has to take, they have to live with that inconvenience.
Tuesday evening, the GAA Hall in Crossmaglen, and a public meeting chaired by the local doctor draws a sizable crowd. They're told that the checkpoint issue has been raised with the Irish Premier, Albert Reynolds, and has aroused interest amongst some American senators. 24 hours later, support on the ground from the Sinn Féin President, Gerry Adams. His presence drew little attention from the security forces, who say their priorities remain finishing the building work on time and what that means to the protection of lives. From the DUP is Sammy Wilson, who's been quoted as saying that the people of Crossmaglen deserve every inconvenience that they are experiencing. End of quote. How do you justify that?
Well, first of all, the security presence which there is in Crossmaglen is a direct response to the activities of the IRA, and that the last local government elections, 50% of the people in the area gave direct support to the IRA through casting their votes in the secrecy of the ballot box. And I think that people must be made to realise that if you support terrorism, then there are consequences to bear, and the consequences we are seeing on the ground.
Well, in the first instance, you're equating the 50% who voted Sinn Féin with 50% voting IRA. In the second instance, what about the 50% who didn't? Did they deserve it?
Well, I mean, many of the people who also did not vote for Sinn Féin expressed some preferences for Sinn Féin, and if you took the total figures, some 75% were giving preferences, either first or other, to Sinn Féin candidates. And in my book, that's a vote for the IRA. And I think that people must be made aware that if they support a terrorist campaign, then there's a cost to be paid. You can't leave the men who are guarding the border and trying to stop the IRA supply lines from the Irish Republic into what was described as bandit country. You can't expect those people to be left unprotected, and whatever security measures are required must be taken.
Do you take offence at that, Seamus Mallow?
I think the people of Crossmaglen, I think reasonable people everywhere will take offence at that. To imply that ordinary people living in that area or any other area where there is a security operation deserve it because there are those within that community who are carrying out acts of terrorism, I think is an appalling statement.